Okay, let's unpack this. Today we're doing a deep dive into a pretty striking report from the Moscow Times based on Vyorska's investigation. We're looking at how Russian police are reportedly getting bonuses to recruit detainees for the war in Ukraine. We want to understand what that actually means tactically and strategically based on the source material you've got there.
Right. Our objective is straightforward. A precise, hard analysis of this operational reality as it's evolving. We need to break down this, unconventional method of human resource acquisition in a modern conflict setting. For decision makers, for strategic thinkers listening in, we'll pinpoint the mission-critical elements from these sources.
Okay, so let's start big picture. Strategically, what's the main goal here? What objective does this recruitment push serve?
It defines a critical strategic need. Sustaining manpower. Simple as that. This is clearly happening in a protracted conflict scenario. It's a direct answer to attrition, battlefield losses. The aim is reinforcing troop numbers, and it seems they're doing it with, less regard for traditional recruitment standards. We're seeing a clear tactical shift. They're leveraging the domestic legal system, police and courts, to feed combat operations directly. And these bonuses you mentioned, 10,000 to 100,000 rubles, maybe $130 to $1,300 per recruit, they really underscore the urgency.
Okay, so urgency driven by manpower needs. And for the detainees themselves, what's the actual offer? What's the pull?
The pull is significant. Primarily, it's about avoiding prosecution. Detainees, generally between 18 and 65, are told flat out, enlist, go fight, and your legal troubles could disappear.
Disappear how?
The mechanism seems pretty formalized, according to the sources. Once a detainee agrees, signs a military contract, the legal case is suspended, pretrial detention lifted, criminal prosecution halted. On top of that, they're promised full legal amnesty, hefty salaries over 200,000 rubles a month, that's more than $2,500, plus family benefits, even free education for kids.
Wow, that's quite a package, especially if you're facing serious charges.
Exactly. It's essentially an institutionalized pipeline for getting personnel. It highlights a strategic focus right now on quantity. Getting bodies to the front seems paramount.
So that covers the why and the what. Let's get into the operational how. How does this actually work on the ground level?
Yeah.
Inside police stations?
Operationally, it's quite direct. The sources suggest the recruitment pitch often happens very early, sometimes even before the first official interrogation.
Before interrogation. That signals a real priority shift.
It signals an aggressive operational tempo for intake, yes. And for the police doing the recruiting, the incentives are substantial. Take St. Petersburg investigators. Their normal monthly pay might be 40,000 to 60,000 rubles, maybe $500 and $770, but they can earn an extra 35,000 rubles, around $450 for each recruit they sign up.
So 1 or 2 recruits a month could massively boost their income.
Precisely. One source, a dismissed officer apparently, stated an investigator can double their salary by recruiting just 2 people a month.
And you mentioned these bonuses are changing, increasing.
Yes, the reports indicate they've gone up since the start of the year. St. Petersburg went up to 50,000 rubles, that's $640. The wider Leningrad region, even higher 100,000 rubles, or $1,280.
And Moscow.
Moscow, also 50,000 rubles per recruit. Interestingly, the funding there is reportedly from the city and some unnamed private entity.
A private entity involved. That adds another layer.
It does. And we see increases elsewhere, too. Kaluga region, 10,000 up to 60,000 rubles this year. Bryansk region, 20,000 to 30,000 rubles on top of salaries that start quite low, around 38,000.
These rising figures really paint a picture of pressure, don't they? Pressure to deliver recruits.
Immense pressure. And we have some numbers. Interior Ministry data looked at by Vyorska for just 1 month, June, showed over 3,300 detainees across Russia were given this choice. Out of those, 392 agreed. That's nearly 12%.
12%. Who are these people mostly? What kind of charges are they facing?
The largest group who accepted were suspected of theft, 139 cases in that June data. After that, drug-related offenses were next, with 53 cases.
So, theft and drugs mainly. What does that mean for the military units they end up in? What are the implications for, say, force posture or discipline?
That directly impacts the composition, the very fabric of these operational units. You're potentially introducing elements with, shall we say, compromised discipline or questionable motivation. Think about unit cohesion, morale, reliability under pressure. It introduces significant potential challenges on the battlefield.
Okay, let's shift gears slightly. We often talk about high-tech warfare, drones, cyber. Where does technology fit into this specific recruitment process? Or does it?
That's a key observation. Based on the source material we have, this is fundamentally a human-centric manpower solution. There's no mention of advanced tech, surveillance, or cyber tools being used in this recruitment drive itself.
So it's old-fashioned persuasion and incentives, basically.
Exactly, and what that signals is critical. Despite whatever technological advancements exist in their military, the fundamental need for ground forces human capital remains paramount. The fact that they're resorting to such unconventional methods suggests that technology alone isn't solving their manpower problem on the front lines.
That's a really important point. Human resources still being a core, perhaps limiting factor.
It remains a foundational component driving these unique and, frankly, quite desperate-sounding strategies.
So zooming out again, what are the ripples beyond Russia's borders, the geopolitical implications of using the justice system this way?
Well, the geopolitical fallout is considerable, using legal vulnerability as a recruitment tool. That immediately raises serious questions internationally. Questions about human rights, about adherence to basic international legal standards.
And how does it make Russia look on the world stage?
It projects an image of, well, strategic desperation for manpower. That perception directly impacts how other nations assess Russia's long-term combat strength and its ethical standing. And the sources themselves mention concerns from within law enforcement about abuses.
Abuses? Like what?
There's an example cited from the Voronezh region, November 2024. 3 officers allegedly beat and used electric shocks on a man to force him to sign a contract.
Does he sign?
No, he refused, filed a complaint. The officers were reportedly arrested later, in June 2025, but apparently no charges have been filed yet. When incidents like that get reported, even if details are disputed, they amplify negative international perceptions, they expose the ethical compromises potentially underpinning their force generation. That has real consequences for diplomacy, for alliances.
Okay, finally, let's put this in historical context for you, the listener. Is this kind of thing new? Or have we seen similar tactics before?
Historically speaking, recruiting from prisons or offering pardons for military service is definitely not unprecedented. Not at all. You can find examples throughout military history. Napoleonic Wars, certainly during both World Wars. Nations facing severe manpower crises have often resorted to such measures.
So when things get tough, the rule book gets flexible.
It reflects a recurring pattern. A pragmatic, though often morally ambiguous, decision to prioritize sheer numbers, quantity over quality, or traditional standards. This happens particularly in long, high-attrition conflicts where the demand for replacements is relentless. So yes, what we're seeing aligns with those historical doctrines. It underscores that enduring, fundamental challenge of just finding enough people to fight.
That really puts it into perspective. We've covered a lot: the strategy, the nuts and bolts on the ground, the tech angle, the global view, and the history.
Yes, this dive into the Vyorska report via the Moscow Times gives us a pretty stark insight. It shows the relentless demand for human resources in this conflict. It also illustrates the adaptability, however controversial, of strategic planners when they face critical battlefield needs. It really is a testament, isn't it? Even in our age of supposedly advanced push-button warfare, the human element remains a primary, often decisive, variable.
Absolutely. And for you listening, think about this. What really stands out to you about this unconventional recruitment approach? How might strategies like this shape future conflicts? And maybe more profoundly, what are the long-term impacts on society, on the military itself, of pulling people from such diverse, often difficult backgrounds straight into frontline combat?
It leaves us with a critical question to ponder. What are the ultimate consequences societally, militarily, when a nation feels compelled to continually lower its recruitment standards and essentially weaponize its own legal system to meet demands on the battlefield? That's something worth considering.